Greetings, YouTubers. Today is Saturday, September 16th, I think. I don't know. You know, I've done like, what, 145 of these or something like that. I think this is 145 here. You'd think I'd, start checking the date before I got it, or just stop offering it in the beginning. I don't know. Okay, so let's see. Some of the topics that we've covered recently are, bathroom facilities, how I work all that stuff out, food, kinds of foods I buy, why I buy them. Yesterday had a kind of a live chat because it was quick. It was really nice. I had like a whole day to myself. It was really good. And then my camp spot filled up with people. I've got 5 vehicles out there now. Fortunately, they're all going up into the mountain to go backpacking, so they're just parked out here. So I've just got cars in front of my view now but I don't have people wandering around, which is good. And yesterday I talked about finances and my financial circumstances and how those work. And excuse me. Just had my cup of coffee, and sometimes it leaves me a little phlegmy. A wee bit phlegmy. So today I think I wanted to talk about how I got here. What was what were the mechanisms involved in me landing here? I think fundamentally this has always been attractive to me. As a young child, I was a member of an organization that camped a lot, not the Boy Scouts, it was something else. And my father and I, participated in this group, and we would go camping all the time. And I learned a lot of stuff. We had some very knowledgeable people that had some rudimentary survival skills and that kind of stuff. And I was always just fascinated by that. And I remember, vividly the first time, I was given a cast iron pan, and my task was to clean the pan. Like, okay, we don't have spigots of water, no sinks, no kitchens, no dish soap, and that kind of stuff. And what I was taught was, you get a little bit of sandy soil, and throw it in the pan, and then just kind of rub it around, and it soaks up all of the the greases and oils and what have you, and its abrasiveness kind of scours off the pan and everything. I'm not so sure how good that is for the seasoning of a pan, but it did get it clean. And then you just took a damp cloth and wiped it out, and the pan was clean. So anyway, I started out at a very young age, enjoying camping, enjoying the wilderness, and as I grew older, that kind of continued. I used to spend a lot of time at the beach as a young man. I lived on the shore. I was always outdoors. I was a surfer, totally, dude. Avid surfer. Like everyday kind of thing. Made my own surfboards. Sorry, I'm hearing another vehicle. Please go by. Yes. Is that bad? Wow. Have I become so antisocial that every time I hear a motor coming, my blood pressure goes up. So anyway, I lived at the beach. Um, my friend and I that I surfed with, I mean, I would dig clams, and this was back years ago when you could actually sleep on the beach. You could camp on the beach. There was a section of beach called Tin Can Beach, is what my parents referred to it as. And basically it was just a stretch of camps, and people, some of whom lived on the beach. You could do that back then. You could have a fire on the beach. That's back when America was free. We'll have another video about my political affiliations. Anyway, we would live at the beach. We would dig for clams, and start a campfire on the beach, and cook our clams and eat them. And didn't do a lot of fishing. Somehow surfing and hooks just didn't seem like a good combination, I guess. Later on, as I got married and moved away from home, I moved up to Sacramento, California. And I used to spend a lot of time along the American River and rafting down the river, swimming in Lake Folsom, and spending time in the outdoors around Sacramento, going up into Placerville and up into the Lake Tahoe area. And in fact, I did some backpacking up around the Lake Tahoe area, up in Desolation Wilderness, around Pyramid Peak. So all of that to say that this has been part of my makeup for all of my life. Just this whole thing, it really fits me well. And but you know, marriage and life and kids, and you know, other factors kind of play into it, and I ended up finding myself funneled over into mainstream America, and you know, I always had a job. There were times, little gaps in between jobs that, you know, I've worked all of my life for 45 years. I started when I was like 17, I think. Maybe a little earlier. I mean, if you count like helping friends with paper routes and that kind of things. But paper routes. Remember paper routes? Can't have those anymore. Another topic. I don't want to digress on that. My first job was scooping ice cream at a store in Huntington Beach, and very conservative organization. I had hair down to my shoulders. I was like totally the surfer dude. I'm telling you, blonde, long blonde hair, tan, buff. Oh man, I was cut. That's right. I'm not a girly man. I'm a manly man. I was probably 135, 140 pounds of just lean meat. That was a long time ago. But anyway, in order to work, I had to wear a wig. I had a short hair wig. Go figure. I had to put a short-haired wig on to work. And then after the store closed, I could take my wig and my tie off and be myself. But so I found myself in this mainstream America kind of dynamic, and you know, buying a house, having a family, and focusing on that. I mean, there was still little camping excursions. Yosemite was a place I used to like to go, and even then it was not camping. We were all grouped into Curry Village. If anybody's been to Yosemite, kind of like a little H-shaped concrete walls with canvas tops on them, and they had electricity. Some folks would bring refrigerators and microwaves, and it was basically just transporting your house from there into. I guess this isn't much different. I've got a stove and a heater and electricity here too. So, but by and large, I focused on work and getting all of that done, and family, and all of those things. But all the time inside of me deep was this longing to kind of be here, free, outdoors. I don't know how to quantify it in words exactly. And I think in the last 5 to 10 years, I guess, that longing, that desire has kind of grown. I felt more and more compelled. I think, world events, world circumstances were not an insignificant driver. I had, I don't know if concerns is too strong of a word, but, watching world events, I would just look at it and raise an eyebrow and go, you know what? And I kind of have a little bit of a prepper mindset. Jimmy said it the other day pretty well. He says a practical prepper. And I think that's probably more towards my bent. The notion of living smaller, I think, was a bigger chunk. I looked at all of the stuff, the piles of junk, and I mean, you guys, if you've gone back in my videos, you've seen the amount of debris that I've accumulated. I managed to accumulate in that period of my life. And, I and other members in my family would oftentimes just buy things on impulse. And they'd sit somewhere on a shelf and collect dust and never get used. And we talk about, some people talk about global warming, and, a lot of the focus is on the oil industry and cars and as the contributors. But, I mean, you look at all of the stuff that I accumulated, my family and I accumulated. That took energy and resource in order to manufacture all that stuff. Now multiply that times how many people are on the planet? I don't think everybody lives like Americans. Let's just focus on America. 300 million people all just consuming as much as they can, expending every ounce of their paycheck on the next shiny thing. Every time a new iPhone comes out, people were in lines to get the stuff. And all of that takes in. Talk about contributing to, greenhouse gases. Another topic, I don't want to get into a discussion about whether it exists or doesn't exist. To me, it doesn't matter. I think there's a cleaner way to live, and we should do it. Whether or not it's causing a problem now or not is irrelevant in my mind. We get caught up in this argument about, is it or is it not causing a problem? It doesn't matter. Is this a smarter way to live or not? In my mind, in my heart, it is. This is a better way to live. I don't consume as much. I therefore don't pollute as much. I don't, my resources go further. I've still got to get rid of some stuff over here from the old life. But once that's gone, man, I'm telling you, my financial future looks much brighter. Assuming I keep my health and everything else, I'm going to be in good shape. But, other members of my family, this wasn't to their liking. This kind of lifestyle was not a mindset that fit well with them. Rachel tried. She did good. And I think that she came away with some good things with it. She experienced some things that ordinarily she wouldn't have experienced. And I think she's going to remember this for the rest of her life. And it's going to have an impact on her. Ultimately, this is going to integrate into who she is as a person and have some effect, some change on her. I'm sure it has already. But anyway, so trying to get the whole family to move as a unit into something like this, I mean, just backtracking a little bit to February of this year, had the relationship stayed intact, and the house sold and the content sold, all of those resources would have been able to be applied to the debt. It probably would have been wiped out, and we probably could have done something similar but a little bit different than this, something big enough to accommodate all of us, and lived on my Social Security alone, and probably lived comfortably and traveled the U.S. and all of that, and just looked at a different way to live. Smaller, more economical, greener, more friendly, more peaceful. You guys know the list. You have the same list that I do. So, I felt okay that this was not an option at that point in my life, and the wife, the ex-wife, whatever that is, I don't know. I'm not going to go off on that tangent again. Found somebody that she liked better than me, and decided to cut the cords and go her own direction, and that left me here with this possibility. I could now do this. I didn't have to go and get orders barked at me to go do something, or be paid significantly less than, maybe I want to rephrase how I want to say this. In an organization, there's this hierarchy, and the people at the top, let's take, who's the CEO of Disneyland years ago? The guy was pulling out $120 million a year. Granted, the employees at Disneyland got paid well, but they didn't get paid anywhere near $120 million a year. So, I don't know, this, in my mind, here's the people that are actually out there making Disneyland what it is, and they're getting paid fractionally what this one guy at the top is getting paid. I don't know, I see that as a disparity, and I think that playing field needs to be much more level than it is, and I think it was. Back in the day, I remember hearing, the president making like $100,000 a year back when I was a kid. I think initially the president of the United States didn't make any money. I think it was a voluntary position. I could be wrong about that. Or it was nominal. And you could walk up to the White House door and knock on it. Hello, Mr. President. Hey, I got a question I want to ask you. My goodness, how the world has changed. So anyway, I found myself in a place where I no longer had to think about my family's needs and meet those. I could just think about my own needs, and because of the breakup of the relationship, 35 years gone. But because of that, we had to sell property, and that stuff needed to be gotten rid of anyway, and so we did. So the anchors were cast off. The relationship I had been summarily released from, and voila, all of a sudden I found myself in a place where I could do this if I wanted to. This was a choice. I could have still retired and been, by myself, or chosen to find another relationship and gotten maybe a small apartment for less money, and made it on my Social Security. But how could I pass this up? How could I pass this up? I've shared some of my photographs. You guys have seen them. Some of you have seen them, I guess. I don't know. Have you? I know that some of you have, but I don't know if anybody really looks at that stuff or not. Man, some of the places I've been are just awe-inspiring, beautiful. And, you know, to be in a camp and have a moose with her calf walk through the meadow that you're camped next to be sitting in the forest and enjoying a cup of coffee and hearing elk off in the distance bleating, not bleeding, bleating. Is that the proper word for elk? Calling, but making the noise that they make. And you know, some of the people that I've met have left an impact on me as well. And I think I'm evolving more now as a person than I have probably in, you know, decades of living in a normal sticks and bricks kind of a house. So I chose this life, and I have no regrets. I wish I had my family with me, but I mean, I still have some goals to achieve. I want to get smaller and greener still. I'm not going to fall off what I would consider the deep end, but you know, I think I still have a little bit more improvement that I could make in the way that I live, in terms of my quote-unquote footprint, my impact on the world. I mean, I'm not someone who's going to be critical of somebody who lives in the sticks and bricks kind of lifestyle. That's fine. And some people aren't. Some people are not made for this, and I get that. And I'm not going to begrudge somebody that can't do this and has to do this other thing. That's fine. You can go do that, and I don't hold it against you at all. I do not. But for me, you know, I want to be smaller, greener. I want to be more. I want to have a positive impact, not just on the environment, but on people. You know, Jamie's van build, I brought this up probably my last 3 or 4 videos, and that's coming up here in November. I'm really looking forward to that. In large part because it gives me an opportunity to have an impact on somebody's life. And I'm really looking forward to that. So, all right, that's all I've got for today. Another long-winded one, I'm afraid. They've been getting longer and longer. I remember when they were like 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes. Now they're 24, 30, an hour. I was on for an hour yesterday. And, you know, I had a great turn. There were like 4 or 5 viewers, maybe. I think a total of about 7 kind of filtered through during the course of the live feed. Those are so much easier to do. But the quality isn't as good. And, you know, I can't edit things out, so I tend to ramble. And if I say something that I really don't want out there, it's too late. It's out there. So there are some detractors for it. But boy, sure is a lot easier to do. All right. One more quick thing. I never get away with one goodbye. One more quick thing. So I talked about the fraudulent charge thing, and 800 hit to my bank account this month. Smarts. Anyway, I got the calculator out and did some quick math, and I think I'm going to be just fine. So, kind of depends on my gas mileage. Even if I get the worst gas mileage that I've ever gotten, I'm still going to have money left over, and I can get to Quartzsite and get set up. And in fact, I think I'm probably going to start heading down here pretty soon. I've been watching NOAA.gov, and the weather is getting cooler. It's gone from like 108 down to 102 by week's end in Quartzsite. I think I saw at the La Posa South LTVA down into the 90s by week's end. And I think I can deal with that, you know, for the next few weeks, whatever. and I can get set up and get the pods out and hunker down for the winter. So, all right, that's my plan. Questions, comments, and some links down there. If you go to the Flickr site, there's nothing for sale there. This isn't a sales pitch, but if you like to see my photographs, some of the build, some of the more artsy stuff, that's closer to the top of my. They call them a stream in Flickr. Those are the more recent posts that I've had have been a little more artsy. Go have a look. Take a look at my photography. I'd love to hear what you think about it. To be honest with you, I know that I think it's good. I think I do a pretty good job. I don't think I'm the best photographer in the world, but I'm probably better than many. But yet I couldn't make a living at it. Oh, yeah. It's like I was a web designer for a while too. I had my own graphics design company, and I would resell hosting services and then design websites. I used to hand code HTML. Remember back then? But I digress again. But anyway, I've never been a very good businessman. But I've tried a couple of times, several times. Just never really done much. I think the most I ever made in 1 year was about 12 grand. My photography, I mean, I did okay. I've sold enough photographs and shot enough weddings and other stuff to pay for my camera gear. So I'd be interested to know what you think about my photographs. I think I'm okay. But I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. And there's some good information for you there. Kind of check out the build and how that evolved and proceeded and stuff. And there's been, there might be some gaps in information where, I may have, headed off this way and say, I'm going to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then somewhere midstream, I've decided, I'm going to go this way instead and do this. And sometimes there's gaps in explanations about what happened and where and all that stuff. And I apologize for that. It's never really been my intent to make this a quality, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, you look at some YouTube streams and they're really polished and they look like something that you would see on standard television. Everything's perfectly scripted and in focus and it looks like a really professionally well done production. And it's never really been my goal to do that. I mean, I've done a couple of little quirky things. I pulled some skills out from the way distant past and, created little logos and things and all of that. So, but it's never really been my intent to make this a professional video stream. It's just been, as I've said repeatedly, this has just been about a chronicle more than anything else. I've talked about monetizing the channel eventually, and I think, there was a time, I don't know that it is so much anymore. I think there was a time where I was thinking monetizing would be great, a little bit of extra income, but I think realistically, I don't know that it's something that's achievable, and I don't want to get my head too much wrapped around that goal and start thinking down that way. I want to try and keep this as real and candid. I want to be able to say what I want to say and all of that without having to fear the monetization police or whatever to say, I'm sorry, you can't say that on Flickr because our advertisers don't like it. So where was I going with all of that? Somehow I got off track again. See what happens when you get old? This is why there's gaps in my videos. That's what I was talking about. So there may be gaps. This isn't a professional channel at all. And so there may be gaps, and there may be things where I've kind of shifted things and said, I'm going to do this, and then I did that instead. And that's fine. Some people are going to probably grumble about that, and I don't care. I'm trying to be as honest and as candid with you as I possibly can. And I'm old and I forget stuff, and I change my mind in midstream of things, um, and sometimes it's a day-to-day thing, Philosophically, I think, I'm still evolving as a person, even at 64 years old. I'm still growing. And I think the day that I stop doing that that would be a sad day. I want to continue to grow and learn and become. Anybody familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs? That top peak, the self-actualization. I want to get there. So anyway. All right, guys. Love you. Appreciate you. Comment. Click subscribe. All that good stuff. If you want to. More than likely not, we'll see you tomorrow. All right. Later.